Hi, this is James Gordon of October here with the last video of 2025. This year, I was unfortunately unable to beat my record of 49 novels I read back in 2024, as I was only able to reach 41, which is still a lot, but I am hoping next year that I will be able to top my 2024 record of 49 novels. So, anyway, this year, I read a total of 41 novels. I started a very big book series, the Jack Ryan John Clark series, which is still ongoing. I will complete that series in 2026 with 5 novels left to go. And after that, I'll be reading some other book series I want to read. As this year, I originally planned to do more book series, but this year has been very at times hectic, stressful, and some days I was just depressed and I didn't feel like doing um, a lot, so I ended up putting off a lot of stuff. So I'm hoping for next year it will be a lot better, and I'll be able to do more book series on the channel and get some more books read as well. So I have some major plans for next year. I would like to do some nonfiction books, and I got some nonfiction books I would like to read on review on the channel, and I would like to get more manga, graphic novels read on the channel, some more furry novels too, and to get some other book series read on the channel, just to get more series of stuff. I know another series I would like to complete is the Dune series, which is not finished. I only read the first 2 books, and I still got the other ones I need to read, so that's a series I could do for next year, along with some other ones, but anyway. Those are some of my plans for next year. Oh, and my output is going to be different, as I said this in one video on my 5th year anniversary of October Library, where I want to focus more time on my novel projects, as I really want to get my author career going, and I need to get several of my unfinished novel projects finished, as these books I kind of working at a very slow pace, and I really need to change that. So my plan is to spend 1 week of writing, and then dedicate the next week to like reading. So it will probably change the outcome of the books, how the posting of like book reviews and stuff. I am gonna try to like maybe do like a novel and a collection, or a graphic novel or something on the side, so that way I can get like 2 videos or 3, depending on what I'm reading. That way, I have more content to release within the weeks and stuff. It all depends how I'm feeling. Like some days I might read more, other days it might be less. It just depends how I'm feeling. So that's one change that's going to be happening next year. Yeah, so I'm hoping next year will be a lot better. Um, hmm. uh, like this year has been, it's had it's up, it has its, there's been some good things that happened this year, and there's been bad things that happened this year. Um, so I am hoping that next year will be a lot better for both for me, get some future goals that I want to accomplish, make those happen, and do more in the channel. That's what I'm hoping for, and hopefully some things start changing around for the better for my life. All right, enough of that. All right, so I'm going to start with the top 10 worst books I read of this year, starting with at number 10, Metro 2033 by Dmitry Gludinov. This is a post-apocalyptic horror thriller novel that's set in the metro system in Moscow, where basically a nuclear war has devastated the land above, and a bunch of people have fled to the underground to stay alive. However, it's not easy living in the underground. Food is very hard to come by, and not only that, you got different factions that don't get along with each other. You also got the threat of mutants and stuff, and you got like a neo-Nazi group and a neo-Stalinist group that are causing constant conflict to the metro system, and everyone's just trying to stay alive. It follows the main character of Artyom. Basically, he's just a guard that just works for this one district, and then he's given a task to alert some generals of some threat known as the Dark Ones that pose a serious threat to the metro system. And it basically follows his journey for the metro, trying to try to alert the commanders and stuff, and he faces a bunch of challenges along the way. I really want to like this book, but unfortunately, I had so many problems with it. The fact that the main character has to be rescued so many times to the point where I was really getting annoyed with this. Like, every time our team would go somewhere, something would happen to him, and it would be up to someone else to come in and save him. As this guy doesn't fight that much, he kind of has this almost no kill rule unless he really has to shoot something, and he spends most of his time just shooting his assault rifle, hitting nothing, and he only has like one confirmed kill throughout the book. I'm like, wait a minute, how the hell has this guy been alive this long in this hostile dark world with mutants and these different factions and stuff that all these people have to go up against like pretty much every day, and this guy has only one kill to his credit. That's it. And and I felt like the detail could be better. Like there's parts where I felt like the author describes some detail well, but other times he's very vague about it. So you have to like really think hard what the world looks like. And I wish the author would put more detail in the book. Then when Artyom does end up reaching the generals and stuff, and he goes, for all this trouble just to alert them, the Dark Ones, they decide we're not going to do anything about it. We're just going to drink our vodka, smoke our cigars, and kick back and do jack shit about it. So it's up to the main character to do something about it, and it's just the same thing again. And I was like, this book could have been so much better. I thought the idea was so interesting. A post-apocalyptic novel set in the metro system where people have to live in the subway and they're dealing with all these threats and stuff. Like it's got an interesting idea and concept going for it. If only the story was better, and I wish the main character was more like like a kind of like an action hero type character instead of this like average everyday person that's trying to survive and has to be rescued constantly in order to get to where he has to go. I just felt it could have been a better book. Okay, number 9, Clickers by J.F. Gonzalez and Mark Williams. This was a horror novel that I used to like. Now I really don't like anymore. While I thought the whole idea of clickers, like these like mutant crab scorpion creatures, like the whole look of these things are really interesting, and they attack this small town off of like off the coast of Maine. I thought I liked the setting of it. It had some interesting characters. However, it's very short, and I wish it was this novel was longer to have more scenes of the people fighting against the lobsters and seeing these creatures in action and stuff. My problem is the main character is a pushover. He is constantly being picked on by this asshole sheriff that I absolutely hated throughout the book, and he does some of the most despicable things, along with causing the death of a raccoon in the book, which really angered me. But I really just hated this character, and he causes a lot of shit that happens later on in the book. And one point, the main character and some other survivors are trying to find help. So, what's their best idea? Let's go to the sheriff and ask for help. When they do find him, it nearly gets them killed, and it's like, what were you thinking was going to happen? Did you think going to this asshole sheriff was a good idea? No. I just really didn't like the where the book went in places. I thought this book could have been so much better. And there's one point in the book where the characters are all stuck in this store and they're hiding themselves in their freezer because the creatures can't get at them, and they're waiting in this freezer for like hours till they finally come out, and it's like it like slows the story down. And then when it finally gets going again, half the characters that I liked, they all get killed off. But this could have been better. I just felt it. I like the idea of these killer, like crab scorpion hybrid creatures. I like the idea of it. They attacked a small town during like a very stormy season. I like that. There were some interesting characters. I felt if the author got rid of the sheriff character or had him killed off, one or the other. Actually, you know what? I would have preferred if the author got rid of the asshole sheriff and just replaced it with Rusty, who was a much better character, in my opinion. And just basically follow these cool characters that are trying to survive against these like crab creatures known as clickers, and it make the whole book longer and just add more carnage and mayhem and destruction. That would have been great. Oh, and the other thing I didn't like was the author started to tie in his work with H.P. Lovecraft stuff, the dark ones, and to me it just felt it was not being really original. You're just now, you're essentially borrowing someone else's ideas and putting them into your book. I just wish the author didn't do that. And this, of course, has spawned into a series where he focuses more on that, and I have no interest in reading that. So, number 9, Clickers. Number 8, The Testament by David Morrell. This is David's second novel after his hit novel First Blood. I tried Testament years ago and I didn't get far in it, so this time I was determined to give it another try after I saw it again, and holy shit, it was one of the worst thrills I've ever read. The basic plot is basically it's about the main character. He's a journalist. Him and his family are targeted by this white supremacy group after he did a interview with the leader, and he exposed a lot of stuff about them, which caused a FBI raid, and half the members were killed off, and the leader got away. And now his family is being targeted by them, and no one is helping him. So it's up to the main character to defend his family and stuff. And this book, like the whole idea sounds interesting. Unfortunately, the book is very boring. It is slow at times. Not much really happens. I felt the father character was kind of a pushover. It isn't until the very end when he starts fighting and one by one his family members start dying off, and I was just really hating this like white supremacy group. I thought, I really want this father to hunt these bastards all down and then go after the leader of this group. And I'm reading for all this. I'm expecting it's going to be some big finale at the end, but the ending is completely disappointing. So after all the shit this poor character has been through, he spends 1 year hiding in the forest, and then he finally tracks down where this white supremacy leader is, and he's like living off some farm in California. He's got a sniper rifle with a scope, and he's aiming down at him, and he sees him in his family, and he's like thinking of shooting him first, but then he starts thinking about shooting his family members, and he can't decide who to shoot, and every time he looks at this guy's family members, he thinks of his family members and decides not to get his revenge and just let him go. And I was so angry. I thought, are you shitting me? This bastard killed your entire family off, made your life a living hell, and you're going to let the guy go after all the shit he's put you through? I was so... I can't recall if I threw the book across the room or not, but I probably did. I was so pissed off. I thought, what a shitty way to end this book. I was just... like, this book sucked. Like David Morrell's first novel, First Blood, is a real knockout. Testament it completely sucks. It was one of the worst thrills I've read of this year. Number 7, The Last Kamikaze by M.E. Morris. This novel had a really interesting idea about a ex-fighter pilot for the Japanese army. Has been living alone for many years after World War II, and he feels bitter about his country losing to the Americans, and he wishes to get revenge, so he joins a terrorist group. So when he joins this group, he's hoping that they will help him get his revenge on the Americans, but they have other ideas which he's kind of against, and he's only doing some things here and there. He's more interested in doing like his own thing, and then he draws the attention of a Japanese officer with this U.S. military officer as well, and they're going after him in this terrorist group. And as the book's going, I thought, okay, it has it's got some good moments of action, good pacing. The story I'm liking. It has some really good like destruction scene. Like there's a really shocking scene of this terrorist group shooting down a plane, and the whole destruction scene was amazing. I was like, whoa, this is really good. Unfortunately, when the main character finally gets to do what he wanted to do for all these years, where he finds out about a rebuilt Mitsubishi Zero, the fighter plane that he flew, he decides he's going to steal this plane and he's going to kill the president in Hawaii during some memorial thing for on the attack of Pearl Harbor. And I'm thinking, okay, this is getting good. The ending is that typical bullshit that I don't like, where the main or the person that wants to act their plan of revenge has a change of heart and just kills themselves, and the whole thing was for nothing. I thought, this sucks. I thought it was like, an interesting idea and stuff, and it had some interesting characters. Though I really disliked the American officer in the book. I felt he was kind of a jerk and very racist at times, and I just didn't like this character. And I thought the book could have been so much better. I thought it had interesting, premise to it and stuff, but like I said, it could have been better. Number 6, The Breeding Ground by Sean Hudson. This is the sequel to Sean Hudson's hit horror novel Slugs, as I was very curious about this book. I actually didn't know he did a sequel until like years later when I found out he actually wrote a sequel to it. I thought, oh, he did a sequel to Slugs? Oh, this should be interesting. As I really enjoyed the first book a lot, and I read it again. I had so much fun reading it. So and then someone told me on a horror group years ago on Facebook that apparently if people come in contact with the slime trail, it makes them like psychotic killers. I'm like, okay, that's different. So I had this idea that basically the book would have like two things going for it. You got the killer slugs are back, but this time if people come in contact with their slime trail, it just makes them psychotic. And I was like, this could be interesting, or it just depends on how the author does it. Unfortunately, when I go to read the book, it's kind of like the first novel over again. Now with this like infection thing now, where the plot basically I'm assuming that it takes place within the same time frame as the first book, as there's no like several days after the events or weeks or years or whatever. It's never explained in the book, so I'm assuming this takes place during the same time frame as the first book. It's not explained, but anyway, so the killer slugs are back, and this time they're attacking London now, and if people come in contact with their slime trail, they become infected with this virus, which makes their skin look horrible. They grow these like sores and stuff, and it makes them like turn on anyone that's not infected. However, if someone should poke these sores that grow on them and stuff, should poke them, or if they are damaged, this kills them, and it makes them very toxic and stuff, and it can contaminate people if they're too close to it. So, and I thought, this isn't really what I thought it was going to be, and I just kind of felt it was like too much like the first novel over again, where you have like basically a bunch of like average everyday characters and stuff, and I didn't really care for these characters. I found them kind of just flat, boring, and not really likable, and it has too much of like the first of the first book. And there was a part where they're trying to figure out how to get rid of these slugs, and I'm thinking to myself, just use a flamethrower with napalm. Just you do that. But then they come up with some stupid reason why they can't do this and stuff, so they have to, I forget what they have to do. I think they have to like I can't remember what they did to eradicate all the slugs in the sewers, but I just find myself, use flamethrowers. That would be the easier way. Instead, they have to like, oh, that's right, yeah, they electrocute them. I thought the flamethrowers would have been just more interesting. And while this book did have some like really good gory scenes of people being devoured by these slugs, but it like I said, it's like the first book over again, and then the ending ends on a cliffhanger where it's hinted that there might be a third one, but Sean Hudson never followed up with a third Slugs book, which I'm glad, because it would just basically be this like the first two books over again. So this is like the one Sean Hudson book that I don't like. I definitely do need to read his other books on the channel, as I got several other books of his I want to read. As this is an author I feel that doesn't get talked a lot on YouTube. Like, it's mostly like all the other big time authors, Kane, Kuntz, and all those other big well-known authors. So yeah, so Breeding Ground was not a good sequel nor a good horror book. Okay, number 5, Desert Fire by David Hanger. This is a thriller novel with a very bizarre plot, and I thought this was one of the weirdest like thrillers I've ever read. So the plot is basically, it's set in the like mid-90s or so, and Saddam Hussein is like plotting some major like a terror attack, and he's going to use like some like nuclear arsenal to get his revenge on Americans and stuff. So he has like some agents sending or sending him like data on some nuclear power plant in Germany, uh, and then something goes wrong, and this leads to an officer who uncovers his plot. And the further I read this book, the more bizarre and weirder it got, to the point where it wasn't really making much sense. I thought, this is how does how is like, I was trying to like I couldn't wrap my brain around this book of like how is Saddam Hussein supposed to get nuclear weapons from this plant? Like what is he plotting or trying to do? And then I just really found the whole plot of the book boring. None of the characters are likable. And then the author tries throwing in some sex scenes, which just made it even more boring. It's like, oh, please make this book more interesting already. I don't care for this shit. And then it's revealed there's some like terrorist hostage situation, a nuclear power plant. They're gonna try to set it off, and I thought this book was just really boring. It's like one of the worst thrillers I've ever read. Um, this is author I've heard about. Like he's very well known for like his big book series, which I heard is better, and some of his other books I heard are a lot more decent, I guess. This one was not a really good book, so if I pull anything out by this author again, hopefully it'll be a lot better than Desert Fire. Number 4, Hideaway by Dinar Coons. So the plot is basically about this rare antique art dealer, Hatchford Benjamin Harrison, and his wife, who's an artist. They're driving along this like highway during December or something, and they lose control of their car. They crash. The husband is nearly killed in the accident. He barely survives, and when he awakens, he basically had some strange thing where he basically was in some like afterlife event where he's in this museum and he's being told about this evil demon who is going to bring harm to the world, and he's connected to this guy, and he brushes this off as just some weird dream. And then over the course of the novel, a bunch of people are killed by this serial killer Vastigo, who's this guy that apparently can see in the dark, and he wears like sunglasses to hide his eyes and stuff. And he begins to feel that someone is communicating him telepathically. He feels that someone is like watching what he's doing, and he first brushes off as some weird thing, but then he believes that someone is out to get him. So he begins looking into who's after and stuff, and this leads to a whole thing where Vastigo kidnaps Hatchford's adopted daughter, and basically him and his wife have to go rescue her. This sounds like a really interesting idea, but unfortunately it's just not well executed. I thought the Dean did not do a really good job of writing out this novel. It feels very like tamed at times, and there's times I feel like the author can like really can push the boundary with it. He doesn't. He just basically he holds back from getting too graphic with it, as I felt Dean was wearing a rubber glove the whole time. Like he just didn't want to get his hands dirty with the dark subject matter. And the violence in this book is very tame. Like the author will describe a scene that happens in the book. Like there's a part where Vastigo kills a woman by putting a gun to her head while in a car and shoots her, and her body gets like rocked violently to the passenger door as she gets like flown off the car. But you have to envision the violence, and I really don't like that. To me, it's laziness, and you just don't want to get your hands dirty. Show the graphic violence that we want to see. Don't be PG-13 with it. And I just found the book mostly boring, and there's a part where the main character Hatchford keeps comparing other characters to like well-known actors and stuff, and I just really felt this was like pulp culture being forcibly shoved into the book, and I didn't like that. I thought the adopted daughter that him and his wife raised, I found her very annoying. I just didn't like her, and I just found the book very boring. I just thought this could have been such a much more darker, violent book, and I was even thinking to myself, this would have been way better, in my opinion, if Dean Koontz made the killer a vampire. That would explain why he can only come out at night, and make it more interesting and stuff. I will say I thought the idea of a serial killer hiding out in an abandoned music park I thought was really interesting, but it just, again, like, it's very tamed, and it just felt the author was just basically didn't want to get too graphic or violent with it. He wanted to stay in his comfort zone, and I didn't like this. this is one of those offers I hear so much praise about, and and of course there's people that don't like Dean Koontz, so it's he's got both his fans and haters and stuff. I have some other books by him I definitely want to read on the channel. Like, I read like his one book Phantoms a long time ago, and I've been never liking that one, but I have to see if it still holds up or not when I go to read again and some other books. But I just felt that Hideaway could have been so much better. Number 3, Far Flung by Udinu. This is Udinu's second novel after his debut novel Rafts. And I was really looking forward to reading this book. Like, when I heard that he was working on a science fiction book, I thought, ooh, I'm curious to see what this is going to be about. Like, I had no idea what it was going to be about or the title. I just basically found out that he was working on a science fiction book. I thought, ooh, this should be interesting. And then this year at the Furry Convention in Toronto, when I met him, and he gave me it, Far Flung, and then his collection of short stories, Echoes, which unfortunately I didn't like that either. And I was looking forward to reading Far Flung. I was really interested. I thought the cover art was really beautiful looking stuff, and I read on the synopsis. It takes place on a desert planet. So I thought, oh, this should be interesting. Unfortunately, this is where I said in my review, I felt the author had some interesting ideas, but they were not well executed, and I felt this book needed more development, as I felt it needed more. It needed more work done onto it, as I felt there was not enough thought put into the plot, the setting. I felt the characters were okay, but I just felt this book needed more. It just needed more work done on it. So the book follows these three characters, 2 fences and a hyena, and they live on this desert planet with like apartment complex on it and some buildings here and there, but that's about it. And all these 3 characters do is that they just go out into the desert mining for crystals, bring them back for resources, for food and stuff, and then they just go back out in the desert, watch the stars or fool around, and then they just repeat the process again. Like, there wasn't really much to do on this planet, and I just felt the author didn't explain things well. Like, I was thinking to myself, okay, does this planet have a defense force? Like, if it's under attack, does it have like a small army or a police force even to defend itself if it gets attacked? No. Okay, what about criminals? What do you do if you got a criminal on the planet? The people have to handle that themselves. Like, all there is just the buildings that these characters live in. There is a research center which they bring the crystals to get them to examine them, see if they're valuable or not, and other materials to mine for. I think it does mention where they have a place where they have like a greenhouse and stuff, but that's it. I thought, wait, so you're telling me this planet doesn't have a defense force, doesn't have a junkyard, doesn't have like a movie theater or a place to have like stores where people can sell stuff? Is there anything else on this planet? No, there's nothing. There's nothing else on this planet, and they have only one other planet that trades with them, and it's these other beings that come to them, and basically they exchange people with psychic powers known as the Flung ability, which is how the characters get from one place of the desert to the other, as there's no vehicles on this planet, which was another issue I have with this book. I'm like, there's no vehicles on this planet, so people either have to walk on foot, or if they have the Flung ability, they can just teleport themselves from one place to the other. There's spaceships, but there's none on this desert planet. This place doesn't have any land vehicles, air vehicles, or hover vehicles, or any sci-fi vehicle of any kind. And I was like, okay, there are several problems with this book. As I explained in my review, I felt this is kind of like very similar to the Architect Asleep book, where the author puts a bunch of puts everything into like the center of like the sandbox, and then everything else is just empty desert. That's it. That's the same issue I had with Far Flung. It's the same thing. All the interesting stuff is in one single place, and everything else is just an open desert, and that's it. The only time the author added something was like a remains of a wrecked ship, and the characters decide to go there, and of course the one character has to leave because he can hear the voices of the deceased, which really upsets him. So then there's like a part in the book where the characters decide to fool around and have sex, and I don't know why Uninu did this, because I find this weird, because in his first novel, Rafts, he shows all the sex scenes. He doesn't hide or hold anything back. He shows you what's happening, which I liked. In Far Flung, he does the opposite, where he decides this time he's not going to show it, but it gives you a hint at what the characters have done, and they'll talk about it. I thought, I don't like when authors do this. If you're going to have a character get it on with another character, show me the scene. Don't just describe it like the aftermath of it, or be very PG with it. I do not like when authors do this. Show me the scene. I want to see it happen. I cannot stand when authors they cut away to something else, or they don't show you what happened, and it's like a complete tease fest. I hate that. It's the same thing with violence. Like, if you're like, when a character is about to be killed, or a conflict's about to happen, show me the violence. I want to see it happen. Don't cut away or do the aftermath. I cannot stand that. It just really annoys me, because now you're teasing like something that you could have shown in it, but instead you're going to tease the reader. Oh, this is what happened, but I can't show that. So then later on, the Far Flung, then this other group of these people show up, and this is the only planet that trades with this desert planet, as these people live on a forest planet, and they basically trade in the psychic people for resources and stuff. And basically, they're not allowed to come back, which is another problem I have with this book. I thought, wait, so people are fine with this? They're like, I'm thinking to myself, what happens if this planet doesn't have any psychic people left anymore? What if they're all gone? These people are essentially screwed. Basically, their planet will not trade with them now, because there's no psychic people left. So that was another problem I had with this book. And then the characters decide they're going to try to hide, because the one character doesn't want to leave his boyfriend or his friend, so they try to hide. But then their whole plan literally falls apart, and they don't try to like salvage it, or or get away. They just like, okay, you got us, we'll come, essentially. And then when they get to the forest planet, it's the same thing as the desert planet. Everything is just in one spot, and that's it. Oh, sure, there's a big luscious rainforest that they're in. There's a waterfalls. It mentions, and it also mentions that further distance there's mountains with snow tops on them. But we don't actually get to see any of this. This is just where we're being told what this planet has. And then the whole reveal of why the character won't let people come back is revealed. Is just basically the typical, I want to be like a god, essentially. I want to be the super powerful, and I want to create the perfect master race army or whatever. Like, it's not, it's not really explained. It's just basically you find out that the guy who's doing this wants to basically become powerful, like the most psychic powerful person of all, and he wants to create like an army of it. And I was like, all this just to become a god, essentially? Really? I was just really disappointed with this book. I thought Uninu had some really interesting ideas with this book, but he really needed to work on improving the plot, fixing some of the plot holes I had with this book, as I just... no offense to you if you're watching this, but I just felt that basically he just basically had the idea and just wrote it down and didn't read it over after what he wrote. He just said, okay, I'm done, moving on to the next scene. As a writer, when I'm writing my stories, I read over my scenes to see if I'm satisfied with them, or if I notice there's a plot hole, then I go back and fix that. As I felt he should have put more thought into the plot, flesh out the characters, explain the world better, and just, like, if he'd done all this, Far Flung could have been, I think, in my opinion, a better book. It could have been a lot better. Unfortunately, I did not like it, and now he's got a sequel in the works, and I don't... And after I read Echoes, which I unfortunately did not complete reading that. That was a collection I tried, and I just ended up not liking it. So I'm gonna wait until Uninu comes out with a new solo novel or something else. As yeah, unfortunately, these two books by him I did not like at all. Far Flung, I felt, had potential. It could have been a lot better, but unfortunately it's not. So I'm hoping when Uninu comes out with his next solo novel or something, it'll be a lot better than this one. Number 2, Red Rabbit by Tom Clancy. This is one of the hands down worst Tom Clancy books I have ever read so far in the Jack Ryan John Clark series. Um, it was really tough deciding to pick which book was going to be the worst. It was either going to be this or Some of Yours, which is a very stressful book to read, or the latest one that I've read, Rainbow Six, which I did not like at all. I decided to go with Red Rabbit for the single fact that nothing happens in this goddamn book. Nothing. Some of Yours was stressful, but it did have some moments of action, but I was still pissed off just reading that book. And Rainbow Six was just basically had some interesting ideas, but Tom Clancy recycled a bunch of things I've read in his previous books and just reuses them again in this book, so I just felt it was kind of like a half-assed novel, so I decided to go with the worst one, which is Red Rabbit. So this is a prequel book that's set after the events of Patriot Games, where Jack Ryan is now sent back to work with the English Secret Service in London, and he basically is not really doing much. He finds his work very boring, and he wants to be part of the action, so finally he's given some work to finally do, where basically he's assigned with preventing a planned assassination on the Pope that the Soviets are planning on doing after the Pope sends a letter saying he is going to what was it again? Basically, the Pope basically sent a letter and basically angry said, if you don't get out of Poland and let this country have its independence back, then I'm just gonna I'm just gonna make your life a living hell, essentially. And this angers the top KGB officials, so they decide to assassinate him. And unlike Frederick Forsyth's Day of the Jackal, the Russians come up with this really ridiculous plan that they're going to use a person that has no ties in with the Soviet Union, and they're going to pick some like random hitman, and they have to make sure that the weapon he uses cannot be tied to them at all. It was very weird, and I thought, what does it matter if he uses a Russian weapon or not? Give him a German gun or Italian gun or something else then. Like, they go for all this trouble to ensure that the assassin has no tie-ins with them. And I just found the whole plot was really boring. It's like a lot of talking, drama, characters just arguing, and just basically doing nothing throughout this book. And then, at one point in the book, Jack Ryan has to help a family escape out of Russia to defect to England, and it was like a walk in a park. Like, they find the family, to get them out, they plant like dead bodies to take the place of the family, so the Russians think they're actually dead. And the whole time I'm reading this book, it's so goddamn boring. Nothing is happening in this book. When I really start getting bored of a book, I will plow through it to see if it gets better, and if it depending on my mood, I can either just say fuck it and just call it quits, or finish it to see if it had anything redeeming with it, or if it was just so bad that it's just not worth reading at all. And nothing happens in this book at all. It just basically, Tom Clancy just basically took a failed real life assassination, just took his characters, threw them into this event, then added a watered down version of Day of the Jackal, and the whole book is so fucking boring. The book, what was it? 618 pages long. This book, a book that thick should not be boring. It should be exciting. It should have action, thrill, suspense, interesting locations that it takes place in, like, well-written characters, some good suspense in it. Red Rabbit had none of that. It's just a complete fucking bore, and I just really hated this book. And this baffled me. There are some people who think it's actually a good book. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with you people? This is one of the worst books that Clancy has ever written, and some fans actually are skeptical if Clancy even wrote this thing. I'm like, I was thinking to myself, I could never write something like this. Like, I would just basically if I wrote something similar to Red Rabbit, I would be so bored, I would just throw it in the garbage. To write a book where there's nothing happens, and it's just, I couldn't do that. I need action. I need interesting characters, and, lots of, and other things to make it more interesting. Red Rabbit had none of that. It was just a complete dud. And Clancy, and the only piece of information I could find that Clancy stated why he wrote this book was that after the success of the reboot of the Jack Ryan film series with Some Level of Fears, he decided to write a origin book and hope this could be like the next film to follow after it. And oh man, I just wish Clancy just wrote something else instead. I felt he could have done, if he wanted to do like this Plant Assassination, he could have made it way better, or he could have written something else entirely different. And speaking of Clancy recycling things, I read the part in where Jack Ryan has to rescue a family in Russia, and he has to help fake their deaths. That way they can get out of the country. I thought, okay, but then what was it? And then after I read that book, and then I go to read Cardinal in the Kremlin, Clancy has the exact same thing, just done with a different character. This time, John Clark has to help a Russian spy and his family get out of the country, and it's the exact same thing that he did in Red Rabbit, where he just basically copy and pasted in what he had John Clark do in Cardinal in the Kremlin and just put it in Red Rabbit, which is the one thing I start to notice with Clancy's books, that he starts to tend to copy things from his previous novels, then like change up a bit or come up with some new ideas. Because when I was reading Cardinal of the Crown, I thought, wait a minute, I've read this before, and I realized that basically he just took this idea from Cardinal of the Crown and just copy and paste it into Red Rabbit, which is absolutely terrible. I do not like when authors copy things they've done in previous books and add it into their later books. To me, that's just being lazy. It's like they don't want to write something different or add a new idea. They just rather take something that they've done in a previous book and put it into an again, which I do not like at all. And having to read like 3 or 4 things I've already read in Clancy's previous novels in Rainbow Six, I thought that could have been so much better. So I really am hoping that when I go to read the later Tom Clancy books that I don't see the copy and paste thing again. But overall, Red Rabbit was one of the worst books I read so far by Tom Clancy, along with Some Level of Fears and Rainbow Six. And I'm hoping that the later books in the series get better, because there's been a couple books where they were either decent or just really bad as Red Rabbit. And the number one worst book I read of this year is Island by Richard Lehman. Oh, I saved the absolute worst for last for this year. As of now, Richard Lehman is kind of a love-hate relationship at the moment. Like, I like his short story. I've read 2 short stories by this author that I liked, Tub and Mess Hall, but I've yet to read a single book by this guy that I've liked, and every time I've read one of his books, it's just left a bad taste in my mouth. And Island was one of the absolute goddamn worst novels I've read. So the basic plot of this novel is that basically it follows this perverted asshole character, Rupert, who is a aspiring writer, and he is invited by his mean girlfriend to come on this trip with her family to the Bahamas. And they're having a picnic on a tropical island when the yacht mysteriously explodes, and everyone believes that the person who brought them there, who nobody likes except his bitchy wife Firma, Wesley, who no one likes in this book, and they're basically stranded on this island. They don't know how they're going to get help and stuff, and they're trying to figure out who blew it up. Was it Wesley? Was it someone else? But then, as the days go by, someone begins picking off the survivors one by one, and they eventually find out is in fact Wesley is the killer. And basically, the main survivors are Rupert and a bunch of other women are trying to stay alive on this tropical island with Wesley and Firmer out to get them. And I absolutely fucking hate this book. I will say the idea of being stranded on a tropical island with a serial killer on the loose is a really interesting idea, and it had some really good scenery that I really liked. Like, the whole tropical island is just absolutely beautiful. Unfortunately, Richard Lehman fucks up this wonderful idea by adding his usual shit that I have read in his other books, and I really grinds my gears when I have to read this. Most of his books have the perverted character in them, and Rupert is just an idiot. he's constantly fantasizing about getting on with the other woman in the book to the point where he can't keep his dick in his swim shorts for 5 minutes because he's constantly eyeing these women, and he constantly keeps writing down over and over again how beautiful they are and their big boobs and their thick butts and stuff. I thought, Rupert, will you please stop talking about this? I've already read this in your previous diary entry. Just please shut up about this. And that was the other issue I had with Island, was the book is told through a diary entry, which I felt really didn't make it better. I just would have preferred if it was just told like a regular, through the eyes of the first person character, like he usually does. But Rupert was just this jerk of a character that I really hated, and there's times that he does the stupidest things, which got to the point where I really wanted to insert myself into this book, beat the living shit out of him, kill Wesley and Firmer, and rescue the other characters so they can get off the island. Oh, and bump off his ex-girlfriend, who I hated a lot. The main character I could not stand. Wesley is an asshole, and he is a really despicable character. Does some of the most terrible things. And what's worse is that Layman decides to have Rupert kind of have similar traits to the villain. I thought, Rupert might as well join Wesley at this point, because if the main character is just going to have the sick, twisted views of the villain, then the chances of the other characters getting off this island are basically, they're screwed at this point. They might as well turn on him at this point. As I felt the Kimberly, the girl that Rupert likes, was a far better character. She was like way more tough, fearless, brave, and she knew how to make custom weapons and stuff, and she was real badass in the book. I thought Kimberly should have been the main character, not Rupert. So, and this is a very thick book. This is like over 500 pages, which is way too long if you ask me. So most of the time the characters are running around this island chasing each other, and a bunch of drama and other shit happens, and then eventually somehow Wesley and Firmer capture the other two women, Billy and Kimberly. It's never explained how, and then Connie. It's not explained how these characters get caught, and then it's up to Rupert now to rescue them, and he finds out he finds out where Wesley and Firmer have been staying, and he finds this hidden mansion on this island. And the first time when I read this scene, I thought, is Richard Layman taking a page from the short story The Most Dangerous Game? No. It turns out the house is there. It turns out this mansion is there for another reason. And what Wesley does in this book really just made my blood boil, as you find out that this family that were victims of the LA riots decided they had enough of being part of this violent society, and basically came to the Bahamas to escape all of that, and they live on this tropical island to get away from that. And it's not explained how Wesley found the island. That was the one thing. It never explained in the book, how did Wesley discover this island. And you find out that Wesley is treating these girls terribly, and he locks them up in cages along with the other survivors. And now you're thinking, okay, Rupert's going to find the keys, he's going to free them and kill the bad guys and take a boat and get off the island, right? No. Rupert's perverted fantasies get the better of him, and this is where I really just wanted to... Oh man, I really wanted to throw this book across the room, because I fucking hated every moment of it. Oh, I really hated this book, and I really wish the publisher looked at this and said, Layman, you have an interesting idea, go back and rewrite this. This is garbage. Make the main character likable, or make Kimberly the main character instead. Make it feel more like a slasher novel instead of this crime thriller. And please stop using your fucking constant words of buttocks, rump, breasts, and all this. Layman, like I said, Richard Layman is one of those authors that I kind of love to hate. There's times where I like his ideas, but the thing that really pisses me off is how he executes his story ideas. His constant use of making the characters a bunch of perverted jerks is not fun to read. The constant use of words that he constantly keeps repeating, it's like a fetish he has for with these words and to me, I feel like this, like he has a fetish for constantly using these words over and over again, and then having having all the female characters wearing blouses all the time. It's like, can you please put something else for these characters to wear instead of the constant goddamn blouse over and over again. And there's a bunch of other things I don't like with his writing. So, and this was a novel I tried reading three times. The first few times I really didn't like it, but this third time I was more determined to complete it, and at the end it was just absolutely one of the worst horror books I ever read of this year. I have some other Richard Lehman books that I gotta eventually read, and I'm hoping I'll find something decent by this guy, as this is an author that has a cult following, and I'm on the fence with Lehman. As of now, there's only two short stories of him I like. The Tub and Mess Hall. But when it comes to his novels, it's the polar opposite. It's the same issue I have with Clive Barker. Like, I like Clive Barker's short stories, but none of his novels. So one of these days, I have to read the other Literary books, and I'll see if this is an author I'm going to like or not. So those are the top 10 worst books I read of this year. Now onto the top 10 best books I read of this year. Number 10, Breakdown by William W. Johnstone. This was a decent action war novel. So the premise is that this is set in the alternate 1997, where the United States government is at the brink of collapse, and there's militia groups that are taking this opportunity to start a civil war to take over the country, and the main character is the ex-Vietnam veteran who gets caught in this war with his friends and basically forms a resistance group to help the U.S. government fight off these militia group. This was a decent book. Like, I definitely felt it was like it had some like prose over another novel I read of a similar idea, Night of Power by Sri Robinson. Where this book you get to see the battles happen, you get to see this war happen across the United States and even into Canada, and it had some really good moments of action I really enjoyed. There was some really good intense like shootouts in the book. There were some good action sequences that I really enjoyed. Some of the characters were hit and miss, but overall it was a good book. The one problem I had with Breakdown was that William Johnstone will go, like, there are times where he's describing a scene in perfect detail, but then he'll describe his scene like kind of like in the third person, where he describes it like a scene happening, but he doesn't put much detail into it, and you have to kind of visualize in your head what happened, and I didn't like that. And of course, I felt the ending was kind of lame, where basically it ends where basically another war is broken out, and now the U.S. government is asking for the main character's wife to help them out again. I'm like, really? You had to end the book like this? You just could have just wrapped it up and just called it a day with that. So it was overall a decent book. Number 9, Who by Aldous Budry. This is a sci-fi dystopian Cold War thriller novel about this Italian-American scientist, Lucas Martino, who is nearly killed in an accident while working on a top-secret project. And when the U.S. government tries to send a team to rescue him, the Russians have gotten there first, and the Russians have saved the life of Lucas by giving him kind of like turning him into a cyborg, where he's got a robotic right arm. He has this metal ovoid, which he calls the metal skull. He's got a bunch of organs fused with machinery, like parts and stuff to keep him alive. And the Russians had him back during a checkpoint, and the U.S. government is unsure if this is the real Lucas or if it's a spy, or is it a robot trying to assume his identity. And they can't remove the things placed on his body because it will kill him. So they put Lucas in constant quarantine, and he's able to answer a bunch of questions, and he does reveal that he is in fact Lucas, but the U.S. government is still unsure. So he's constantly being monitored and surveillance, and this angers him. And then there's a point where he basically gets fed up and he runs away, and then he's later tracked down. I really like the setting that this book takes place in. Like, I really like the setting of this whole this dark this like kind of like almost dystopian Cold War setting. It had some really good scenery scenes with like very foggy atmosphere and some abandoned areas in the book and some like city scenes as well in New York. And I thought that like the main character Lucas was really interesting. It kind of reminded me of Dr. Manhattan from Watchmen, where basically it's this very smart, intelligent man who like the U.S. Government wants to use as a weapon, but at the same time they fear him. It had some things I like with it. Unfortunately, the rest of the characters that we followed in the story, I really didn't like. I felt they were kind of very flat, boring, and the author put more thought into Lucas than the other characters, and I felt the book was like way too short, as I was expecting more to happen in this book. Like there would be like a twist to the story, but there's not. And I just felt that the author had a really interesting idea with this character. I was even thinking to myself that it would be really cool if the author if he made the book longer and had added this whole like made Lucas like a double, like kind of like an anti-hero. Basically, he doesn't care for either the American or Soviet side, and basically he launches a personal war against both sides as he's fed up with them and stuff. That would have been more interesting, but the author didn't go that route though. But overall, it was still a decent read. Okay, 8, Watchmen by Alan Moore. I really had a hard time trying to decide which of the 2 graphic novels I was going to pick by Alan Moore. I only read, I believe, like it was 4 graphic novels this year, so I'm hoping next year I can double that. But I was trying to decide, do I go with V for Vendetta or Watchmen? Like, they have things I like with them, things I don't like, but I decided to go with Watchmen as this was the one that was the more influential with me for my writing and like artwork and stuff. And this also it opened my mind to basically that not everything not everything is like always like happy and the good guys always win all the time, that sort of thing. I decided to go with Watchmen as this does have more to it than V for Vendetta, and it does have the 2 characters I really liked, Rorschach and Night Owl. And I like the setting that Watchmen takes place in, like this dark dystopian future where Nixon is still president and superheroes are outlawed, and this one superhero is murdered, and the main character Rorschach takes it upon himself to get to the bottom of this mystery, which leads into this deadly conspiracy, and it causes all the other ex-superhero characters to get involved. I really do like the premise of the story, and the setting is really interesting. The artwork by David Gibbs is absolutely beautiful. Like, it is just it's very stunning to look at. Let's see the illustrations, and I felt that if Alan Moore picked someone else to work with for Watchmen, I don't think that they would capture the breathtaking artwork that David Gibbs brings to Watchmen. Like, he really, without David Gibbs, Watchmen would not come to life like it does. So I like so it's got interesting settings, got some characters that I like, and some other characters I really don't like. I really enjoyed the very first half of Watchmen. Like it gets off to a really interesting start. The second half is still good, but then is where it starts to kind of go downhill as the finale. The finale is, as I said, it's like a bitter pill to swallow. Like the ending is I don't really like, and I just kind of wish Alan Moore did the ending differently. But overall, Watchmen was one of my favorite graphic novels I've read by Alan Moore. Despite his flaws, I still enjoyed it. Okay. Number 7, Slugs by Sean Hudson. This is one of the very first horror novels I read by this author, and it's still one of my top favorites by him. This is such a fun book. I really enjoy like killer animal stuff and killer bug stuff, and this is like one of the very first like horror novels I got when I started book collecting in Valley Village, and I'm so glad that I got the really cool cover of like a guy that's being devoured by slugs, and half his face that's all that's left, and like you can see like the like behind his skull, and his like you can see his spine and stuff. It's such a really cool cover, and if it wasn't for that eye-catching cover, I don't think I would have picked it up, as the British edition of Slugs is not that good, but I'll save that for a later top list video. But anyway, Slugs basically follows the story where basically it's set in some fictional town in England where people are being murdered by these mutant slugs. They're like the size of like a pointer finger. They can move much faster than normal slugs. They have sharp teeth and they can devour flesh like within seconds. And these things they travel in swarms and eat any living creature they come across. Kind of similar to like piranhas in a way. So these slugs are killing people across this town. And then the main character is this guy who works for the health department. He's like an average everyday character, and then later on, he begins to investigate these mysterious deaths with these slugs, and he gets like a bunch of other people to help him. So the main character and the other characters that help him, they're just like they're average they're average everyday people. They're not like a cool like metalhead rebel or a exterminator with a dark past, or like characters with like interesting backgrounds. They're just like average everyday people, which was it was okay. But I thought it would have been nice if Sean Hudson threw in some fun characters here and there. Slugs is very brutal. It's got some really good gore and death scenes. It does have like a very graphic death that happens to this one guy at a dinner, which I really enjoyed. And one of my other favorite scenes in Slugs is when a guy who works as a caretaker for a cemetery, and he is taking jewelry and stuff from the dead bodies to sell on the black market to earn some extra money, and he gets basically attacked by the slugs, and he falls into a pit that he's dug out for some grave to be buried, and he falls in and he can't get out, and the slugs are devouring away. That was one of my favorite scenes during it's like this moonlit night in the cemetery. That was probably one of my favorite parts in the book. And the finale I thought was good, where it's up to the main character and the exterminator to eradicate these killer slugs, and they basically come up with a way to blow them up in the sewer system, which I thought was fun. So overall, it's a fun early '80s killer bug novel. It's a lot of fun to read. It's not something that's meant to be taken seriously. You just sit back, you read, and you have fun. That's what it's for. And I definitely will be reading more Sean Hudson novels in definitely next year on the channel. Okay, number 6, Tales of Horror by H.P. Lovecraft. I had to include H.P. Lovecraft because he's like essentially godfather of horror. This is an offer I want to get on the channel for a very long time, as I have several collections of his short stories and stuff, and I decided to go with this one, which had a large collection of his H.P. Lovecraft short stories. And while reading them, there was ones I remembered I really enjoyed, and some others that didn't hold up well as I read them the first time. But overall, I still enjoyed reading these short horror stories by H.P. Lovecraft. Very atmospheric, eerie atmosphere, as I really like the way that H.P. Lovecraft describes scenery in his stories. Like I can just visualize in my mind like these really dark, eerie atmosphere, and the monsters he comes with are really interesting stuff. And there was a lot of stories I really enjoyed, and there were some others I didn't like. But overall, it was definitely I'm finally glad to get H.P. Lovecraft on the channel. I definitely will be reviewing more of his stories on the channel as well. Okay. Number 5, The Beach by Alex Garland. This is a really good thriller adventure book about a Englishman, Richard, who comes to Thailand, Bangkok, to he's a backpacker, and he likes exploring the world and stuff, and he wants to go on an adventure and have fun. However, he's annoyed that all the beaches and the area is just crowded with tourists, and it's he just feels like he's just being pressed in by all these tourists and stuff. And then he bumps into this French couple who are also looking for adventure, and then at this hotel, this mysterious, crazy Scotsman, Daffy, gives Richard this map to this place called the Beach, this supposedly untouched tropical island that nobody knows about. And then Daffy kills himself the next day. So Richard and the French couple decide to try to find this island to see if it's what they're looking for. When they do get there, they find out there's a settlement on the island that's that's formed by a bunch of backpackers, along with 2 other people that were friends of Daffy, Bugs and Soul. And basically, they kept this island secret from outsiders, and basically they try to live in harmony together. and I don't want any of the drama or conflict that with the rest of the world. They do have neighbors with these farmers that grow pot, and they try to keep the peace with them. As they've been warned that if the farmers catch anyone stealing their pot, they will be shot at. So this book follows pretty much the day-to-day life of just living on this tropical island, having fun, and then just trying to live off the land essentially. And it's a very fun, adventurous book. And then Richard begins to have hallucinations of Daffy, which causes him to descend into madness a bit. And then eventually later on in the book, there's tension between Richard and Bugs, and a bunch of other things happen. But it was a really good book. I really enjoyed reading it. As I was reading this, I was just visualizing myself what it was like to be traveling in a different part of the world that I haven't been to, and then going out to find this tropical island. I just really loved the setting of it. The characters there was characters I liked and characters I didn't like, but overall, it's a really good book, and I really did enjoy it. It would just be nice if we could get a remake of The Beach that sticks more true to the book, as I really hate the 2000 film of the same name, which completely alters the novel completely. Like, it changes everything. It changes the story. It adds a stupid love triangle that wasn't part of the novel, and I just felt there were so many things that they really screwed over. They screwed up with that adaptation of that book. So hopefully one day we'll get a remake of The Beach that's more true to the novel. Number 4, Heart of Glass, a psychedelic love story by Fox Delaflars, under the pen name by Clustered. This is a novelette that I discovered from this streamer that I watch, Clustered, who does retro themed video games and stuff. And then there was this he was playing this one video game where it was I forget what it was called. It was about it was kind of like Redwall, but instead given a modern setting where basically a bunch of mice are fighting against a bunch of evil empires by animals and stuff, and these animals, they have their own society and stuff. And there's a part where the character pulls out a book, and then Clustered started talking about a book that he published, and he was talking a little bit about it on the stream, and I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. So I bought a copy, and then I eventually got around to reading it, and I really liked it. And then I had the chance to meet Clustered in person and ask his permission to review the novel, and he said he would be honored if I did that. So I said I'll do that. So this novelette is not for everyone. It's very different, and if you're not a fan of reading characters doing a lot of drugs and sex and that stuff, then I would say it's not for you. But if you're looking for something different, then Heart of Glass is a really good novelette. Blueberry Cookie and Raspberry Cake, they're basically these humanoid canes. They come from another dimension where they come to help souls move on to the afterlife. Then they discover Earth, and they enjoy having fun, going to parties, clubs, and having sex, of course. And then another person is sent to help them out. Mint Contifloss, this rabbit has really bad anxiety, and these two other characters want him to loosen up and have fun. And then in the story, and then another character joins them, Crystal, this crystalloid cane character, comes from this abandoned mall, who's been abandoned and is kind of a loner and bitter. And at the start of the novel, he's like a bit of a jerk towards some of the characters, but over time he begins to have feelings for them, and begins to form a relationship with Mint Contifloss, and helps them on their ventures and stuff. And this was a really interesting, fun novelette. It's very psychedelic, surreal, and the urban fantasy of basically of these characters living both in our world and in their own world and stuff. It was very interesting. While I felt I just felt it was a little too short, and I wished it showed scenes of the characters actually taking the souls into the afterlife. There's a part in it where Mint Contifloss mentions that he had to help some soul get to hell, and it was very stressful, and I would have liked it if it had some scenes shown in that, and a few other things. But overall, it was a good novelette. It's not for everyone, but if you're looking for something different, then I would recommend Heart of Glass. Number 3, Day of the Jackal by Frederick Forsyth. This is one of my absolute favorite thrillers that I've read of this year. One of my favorites, in the very first book I read by Frederick Forsyth, and I definitely will be reading more books on the channel to honor him, as we unfortunately lost him this year. So the premise of Day of the Jackal is about this French terrorist group known as the OAS. They're trying to assassinate Charles de Gaulle, who they feel has betrayed them after giving Algeria independence. It's the African continent that the French had years ago, and then a civil war broke out, and then a bunch of French soldiers went off to fight this war to get Algeria back, and then de Gaulle gives them independence, and the whole soldiers feel betrayed, so they decide to kill him in revenge, and they have several unsuccessful assassination attempts, and then after the latest assassination plan fails, with several OAS members captured and executed, the leaders are now hiding, and they think it's one member thinks it's all over, but the leader refuses to give up, so he comes up with a plan to hire a foreign assassin to kill Charles de Gaulle, and the book follows the assassin under the codename the Jackal, who begins planning out his assassination on Charles de Gaulle, and the lengths he goes to ensure that nobody knows who he really is, and the plan will kill anyone that gets in his way or is a threat to his mission. At the same time, you got a French detective who's been hired to go after him, and he's given access to anything he needs to help capture the Jackal, and it's a really good thriller novel. There were some things I felt that the movie did better, but there's some scenes in the book that I wish were in the film. I felt the book had a lot more brutal moments in it, and it had some dark humor in it. But overall, Day of the Jackal is one of my favorite thriller books, and I was glad to finally read that on the channel. Number 2, Heavy Lifting by Statement X. I had to get one of his comics on this list, as I was no way I was going to skip those. And I was trying to decide which one do I go with. It was not easy picking, as I like both Heavy Lifting and May the Best Man Win, but I decided to go with Heavy Lifting as my favorite. This is a short, gay, furry romance comic about a femboy bartender, Stag, who works at this bar/male strip club, The Stable, and there's this new bouncer that comes in. His name's Toby. He's this very handsome, muscular Doberman, and at first he's not interested, but the other bartenders and male waitresses are, and they try getting Toby's attention, but it doesn't work. So Stag is just going about his day, and just not really paying attention to Toby that much until one night where Toby's car breaks down and Stag offers him to give him a lift, and then this leads to a very fun interaction of the two characters getting to know each other, and then Toby reveals that he has a crush on Stag, which leads to a very fun, lovely romance between the two at Toby's house, and then later on a very spicy sex scene, which I really enjoyed. And of course, one of my absolute favorite funny moments in the book where Stag forgets he has a shift and he's supposed to start, and now he's late, and then his boss Kip calls him, this squirrel that has this punk hairstyle, but has really bad anxiety. Calls him up, and then when Stag answers the phone, Kip responds. I really love the image of just Kip coming appearing out of the cell phone. He's angry, and there's explosions going on, and Stag's oh, terrified, and Kip is bitch, where are you? That was one of my favorite funny parts in the comic, and then of course Kip calling Stag a woodland coat rack, which I was just, this entire time I was laughing at this whole scene. It was just one of the funniest moments in the comic. I really enjoyed it. Very well drawn illustration, fun characters, very fun dialogue in it, and of course the sex scenes are the best. And so I just really enjoyed Heavy Lifting. It was a really fun comic, and I can't wait to see what else Statement X has got planned for the future. And number 1, the best book I read of this year, Executive Orders by Tom Clancy. Whew, oh boy, this was not easy deciding which Tom Clancy book to pick as the best, as I had several that I was trying to decide. It was not easy. Revile Remorse was a really good revenge thriller. I really liked that. Clear Present Danger was another good one. Debit of Honor was good, and Executive Orders I decided to go with as the best one, as that one had pretty much everything that I could ask for in a Clancy book. It's got lots of action. There's a lot of suspense in it. It takes place in like so many exotic locations, well-developed characters that I cared for, characters that I despised and hated in it, and despite some things I didn't like with it, overall I really enjoyed Executive Orders. It was pretty much my top favorite of Clancy's Jack Ryan books. So Executive Orders takes place after the events of Debit of Honor, where when the United States was engaged in a small conflict with Japan, this pilot wants to get revenge for the death of his brother who was killed in the war. So he hijacks a Boeing 747 and he crashes it into the Capitol in this very shocking scene where he crashes the Boeing 747 into the Capitol and kills the president and most of his staff and all his other members and stuff. And Jack Ryan is now sworn as new president, and he's forced to now it's up to him to run the country and stuff, and he gets his close friends, associates to help him out. While people are skeptical if Jack Ryan can do handle the duty of being the president, Jack Ryan begins to prove that he can. And then, of course, there's that one character I really hated that was trying to screw up everything for him, which I really hated. And then a bunch of other things happen in the book. Iran launches a war into Iraq and takes it over and forms this new country, and they plan to take over the other countries around in the Middle East. And then there's a viral outbreak that happens in the book, and then at one point Jack Ryan's daughter is nearly kidnapped from school, and this just has so many like intense moments. As I'm reading this, it's Clancy's longest book that he's written, and it's just not once is there a dull moment. Sure, there's when the drama gets like there's like it does have a lot of drama in it, and there's points where like, okay, enough of the drama, get me back to the action. I really enjoyed this book. I found it really engaging. I enjoyed the action that happens in it. The well written characters with good detail and interesting locations it takes place in. It did have one thing I did not like with it, which was this one subplot about these two militiamen that try to kill the president in a very kind of cartoony way, which I felt Clancy could have either done a better job with that or just cut those two characters out entirely. But overall, Executive Orders was my top favorite book, and holy shit, it was not easy. As like I said, the other ones were, it was like I was really trying to decide which ones I'd go with. Without Remorse was a really good dark revenge thriller. It had one of the most graphic scenes I read in a Clancy book. Then there was Clear and Present Danger. That was like my second favorite. And then Debit of Honor was really good, but I decided to go with Executive Orders as my top favorite of the series. Alright, that's for the video today. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you again for being with me for 5 years. I am very honored to have made it this far doing this, as I never thought of doing a YouTube channel 5 years ago, and when I decided to go for it, I'm glad I did, as not only have I read so many books and cover reviews that other channels have not done, but because of this channel, people discover new books to check out, books to avoid, and I've met people from their self-published work and stuff, and it's nice to meet new people and stuff, and just share our passion and love for reading and writing together. I'm really glad to have be doing this, and I'm definitely going to be doing this for a very, very long time. So thank you again for being with me for October Library, and I'm looking forward to posting reviews and book hauls and all the other good stuff for 2026. Until then, I'll catch you later.